Heather.
Number of items to update the board on. The first is that we're coming close to having a final agreement, potentially with Salina, to share an assessor with them. Hopefully that's going to get firmed up within the next week or two. And piggybacking off of that, I received a phone call and some emails from Brad Brennan today in anticipation of that agreement going forward. He's begun to work with Teresa Frank at ORPS on an RFP for the reassessment project in the town. And he and Teresa anticipate that they're going to be able to get a draft RFP over to our office within the next few days, which I will in turn forward to all of you. So hopefully by your next agenda, you may be able to actually solicit proposals based on that RFP. The second item is that people may have heard that Verizon Fios is looking to come into the Syracuse area. They've approached a number of municipalities about franchise agreements, one of them being the town of Cicero. Chet and I sat in on a very preliminary meeting with some Verizon representatives a week or two ago, I think, and they have since provided me with a draft franchise agreement, which I'm in the process of reviewing. I will get it to you hopefully in the near future for your consideration. It will require a public hearing by the town board, and it also will ultimately need to be approved by the New York State Public Service Commission. The one thing that you as a town board will need to consider, and we'll probably go over this more in the future, is how much you may want to receive from Verizon as a franchise fee. Municipalities are entitled to take anywhere between 0 and 5%. So that's something that's coming up and is in the works.
And that's for them to install?
From what I understand, sort of. From what I understand, the lines themselves are pretty much installed, because those are what's being used for internet and telephone service right now. This would require, it doesn't sound like a whole lot of extra digging based on what they told of us, because they can run the new fiber optics through the pre-existing lines that have been laid. So this is just for television cable service that this franchise agreement would be for. The third item is that I have a number of litigation matters to discuss with you in executive session at the board's pleasure. They are E&E Associates versus the Town of Cicero, Bayshore North Apartments versus the Town of Cicero, and the Town of Cicero versus Scott Chatfield. The final item is that in the interest of moving the Brewerton project along, there was some discussion about potentially purchasing a couple of dilapidated houses that are up on Bennett Street. And our office was able to negotiate some option agreements for the town to potentially purchase those houses. The intent, as I understand it, would be to purchase those houses with the funds that have become available through Senator Schumer. Both property owners have indicated a desire to sign an option agreement. The consideration for the option agreement would be $500 for each property. One property owner has signed the agreement. We're still trying to track down the other. But the town board would need to authorize those $500 payments to be made. The total would be $1,000. I spoke to Jean before the meeting, and she said right now she could take it out of your town board contractual line if you'd like to move forward with that.
Should we wait for the other owner, or?
The one option agreement that's currently been signed won't be effective until you make the payment, the $500. Otherwise, it doesn't have any consideration and it's not a binding agreement. So it's really up to you whether you'd like to make sure that one is nailed down or wait for both of them to be in place.
So we just need a town board resolution to pay the $500
Correct.
to the owner that we have. It's the, I believe it's Mr. White.
Correct, that's my understanding as well. It's the Gunther property that we're still waiting on.
And that's in a formal motion.
Charlotte looks like she has a question.
Yeah, I do have a question. Now, this is the Schumer money, that's the $750,000.
It's 764 roughly, yes.
It's in the middle there somewhere.
Correct.
Okay. I received some, I asked Tracy for some paperwork about it, and it's in the Department of Transportation line.
Correct.
How?
State Department of Transportation.
Right. How will that?
How do you get the money?
Houses, no wait, how will purchases of houses be approved through the?
It can be considered right-of-way acquisition because it would be purchased for transportation-related improvements, which would be expanding the parking lot that is up there near Riverfront Park. It's something that we've already had initial discussions with the Department of Transportation on. It is, right-of-way acquisition is possible with that money. And to give another update on that, I received news from the Department of Transportation last week that potential work program agreement may be approved at the state level any day. That would allow you to get moving on that, and that would be consistent with what you approved at one of your earlier meetings, that IPP that we talked about, and those additions to the DOT. That was a rather long-winded explanation, I apologize.
No, that's okay, it's just that I'm worried about them yanking the money back. You know, everybody's tightening up, everybody's squeezing down, I'm worried about them yanking the money back, you know, and then we're gonna be stuck. It feels like this similar scenario to the Commons, where, well, I mean, you know, where something was promised, it fell through, the town got stuck. I get worried about that. As far as, you know, this $500 up, fine, okay, as far as I'm concerned, but going forward with it, I'm gonna talk with you a lot
Sure.
more information
Sure,
about it.
absolutely, sure.
Are we
I
gonna
believe
vote?
that money is already with the DOT, isn't it?
From my understanding is that it is,
Right.
yes.
So that money is already here.
It's in their bank account, not ours.
No, but it's in New York State, it's
Yes,
in
yes.
Washington.
New York State is worse than Washington. They signed, you know, a big bill in Washington. New York State is the one that's, you know, squeezing everybody's neck. Where was?
I'll second Chet's motion, and that's just for the one property for right now.
Sure, if that's the way you'd like to do it, sure.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Ms. Charwacky?
Yes, for one property.
Mr. Ryback?
Yes.
Mr. Coro?
Yes.
Mr. Lozinski?
Yes. Anything else? Jill?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Wayne?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Sharon?
I have a couple of things I'd just kind of like to mention to the board. He was very, very nice of you to give me permission to go to New York City. It was an excellent time. Charlotte, you talk about the budget, I really learned a lot. The budget's 1,000 pages long, and we could not find a single person who was read it yet. Hello. So there was a lot of stuff there. There's a lot of stuff in the budget that's going to affect a lot of us that sit in this room and live in this town. So there was a lot going on. There's a lot of organizations and a lot of towns that are trying to get representatives together to dispute some of the stuff that should be put on floors, not just passed with a rubber stamp type thing. The second thing is, back I think in 2004, I started going to Albany, working with the ORPS people. The conversation back then was bank codes. Bank codes is extremely important to me. That's how everyone's bill gets to their bank. That's a process that the assessors are responsible by New York State law. The assessors took a stand in 2004 and said they didn't want the extra work. Since I have come here to work, I've done the bank codes for the tax office or assessor, whoever, because it was important to us. They have asked me, ORPS has asked me again to come with it, and I'm trying to represent all the tax receivers in New York State, because we either have to stand together and take this responsibility over, or it's going to get lost. The assessors are presenting legislation that says they no longer want the job, they don't want to be responsible, they're not going to do it. So if the assessor, or if the receivers don't pick it up, we're going to have some trouble. So I'm going to fight like crazy, because I think everybody that's here that has an escrow account needs to know that the bills will get where they need to go in a timely manner. So we're going to try and pick it up. So if I ask once in a while to sneak off, that's what I'm going to be working on very hard. And last but not least, at the last town board meeting, there was an authorization to spend up to $150 for what was referred to then as a side-based license, so that our friends in the zoning office could have additional access to version 4, which is the county's Citrix program. My office has had it ever since I've been there. All of our computers have it. That night I didn't talk about it because I didn't know if I was correct. Wayne and I have since talked. The following day, called the county. They now have 4 people in their office that can get into it. There is no cost. It is a thing they do. You just ask and you get permission. So Wayne and I have opened up a new communication line between his office and mine, and we're doing a few things that'll help him and hopefully help all of us. So I thank you all for your help.
Good.
And I thank Sharon also.